Obviously, it was great to have 3 players with double-doubles, and Abby Lashevsky was a basket away from having a 4th. It was great to look at the different combinations. I think Kelly Carlos is somebody that goes about her business in a really professional way. This being her 5th year of college basketball, but not having played after sitting out. And getting a couple other people back, getting Nia Beverly back on the floor. Obviously, Kendra Van Leeuwen's 10 assists equaled her career high and really put people in some really easy positions to be successful. So that was great. We've had a chance since then, obviously, to get back on the floor and work on things. And as you look at that, you get a road test, and it's how we set the schedule up, to be, especially when you have all these players that have not put a uniform on until last Thursday. Now to have that road game, to go into a tough environment, obviously there's a lot of it's an in-state battle, but there's a lot more crossover connections with, Kyle having played here at Wisconsin, Anya Covington having played here, several kids on their roster, whether they're from Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, that during the recruiting time were kids that, whether I was here or the previous staff looked at. It's going to be a great battle. And, we're really excited for the opportunity. We know Milwaukee's coming off 3 straight WNIT appearances, and also in understanding they just took a Big Ten team down to the wire, actually had the lead in the last 2 minutes, and had a chance to win the game at the end and lost by 2 at Indiana. So it is a giant test as your first road trip, with all the intangibles aside, knowing that it's bragging rights for the state. And I love that opportunity for our young group.
Not to bring up a sore subject about that, but they have beaten you the last 2 years. A lot of new faces. How similar are they, and what sort of challenges do they pose this year? How much are they like? How much are they different?
Well, they're different in some of their personnel. They graduate 3 starters who were instrumental in, leading them over those 4 years to program record victories. But I think one thing Kyle has done is she's done a great job of grooming younger kids to take that next step, as well as had some freshmen step in right away, ready to play. And Jamie Wright was somebody last year who was a really good scorer on the perimeter for them. She had a phenomenal game against Indiana. She ended up with 21 points, equaling her career high. But as you look across, Megan Wallstead is a freshman who has been in double figures both in the exhibition game as well as in the game against Indiana. They've had different people step up in different ways. Liz Oregard is somebody that played with Courtney Fredrickson in high school, has come off the bench her first 2 years, even came off the bench last Wednesday for them, but is somebody that is a difficult matchup because she's a post player that steps out and can shoot it. They add to their roster. One of the best things is a multi-sport athlete, and they get a young woman back who just completed a really successful season, playing for their women's soccer team. But I think Bisbong is a young post player who came in last year and gave him great energy. Now she's starting for him, and very similar to Linder and Kosowitz, that they're multi-dimensional. They can score from the perimeter. They can score on the block. They're hard kids to guard. And Kyle does a great job of putting the kids in positions to be successful. And, they have a young woman, who didn't have as great a game against Indiana, but made 4 threes in her first game, Sydney Levy, who'd led Appleton North and our state to the last 2 Division I state championships and scored over 2,000 points. So they had kids just step in. I mean, they played a lot of kids against Indiana. They went deep into their bench and different kids stepped up. Raven Johnson is a post player who, came in and had 2 incredible blocks. She's a great athlete. And so they are able to, take advantage of different matchups, and that's a tribute to Kyle and also to her staff that their players continue to get better year in and year out.
You mentioned your newcomers. Imani Lewis is the one who's stepped right in as a starter. What do you see that makes her ready to step right into that role, and her growth from this point on? What are you looking for after seeing her out there a little bit in action?
Well, I think she brings a different element than we've had, just with her length and you know, being a post player who can catch it out on the perimeter and do several things. And I think you don't see too many left-handed post players. I think it's a different dynamic to have, but she can go get rebounds out of her area. Obviously, she's quick up off her feet. She's got great length. She's done a great job, I think, of just being active on the defensive end for us. And, I think when you have a veteran like Marsha Howard behind her, playing and those two starting and playing off of each other, you have a great basketball IQ in Marsha helping her understand what it's like to play in the post. And I think Amani, again, is a willing learner. She's somebody every day when she comes in to watch film is taking notes so she can go back and review them. And it just speaks to the learning curve. She's constantly in the gym. I think it's been, in the 3 tests so far to just see that physicality that's different for her than it was in high school. But to step on the floor and have a double-double, I don't care who you're playing in your first college game, to start your first college game. As we mentioned in the press conference, I think the greatest thing is knowing she's not satisfied. I left the media room last Thursday night and walked out, and she's shooting free throws and on the Kohl Center court. And that's what you hope the kids understand. How can they be better the next time out? And they're not waiting until we're in practice that next day. She wanted to get right back at it.